All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone out there in the Zoom world for joining us, and thank you all the board members that were able to make it, as well as a couple of people here for some presentations. Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and call tonight's meeting to order and begin with a roll call of the folks here on the North End Sewer Authority Board. We'll start with Janet Hall. Present. Ron Evans. Here. Emily Schofield. Here. Denny Nielsen. Here. And I'm Tim Kirsch. So the five of us easily makes a quorum. So we'll go ahead and go with tonight's meeting. First, I'll ask if anybody has any announcements that they would like to make. If there are no announcements, then I would actually open it up for a quick public comment. Anybody would like to make any public comment? This is your opportunity to bring it to the Sewer Authority Board. Anybody in Zoom world that might have a public comment that they'd like to bring to us? If not, then we will move on forward with the old business. We have a consent agenda with a couple of items on it, and they would be approval of minutes for June 3rd and then also the approval of the budget meeting minutes from June 3rd. Move approval. Second. We have a motion to approve the both items on consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving right into our treasurer's report with Mr. Evans.
Hey, so June 30th was the final year of our 23-24 fiscal year. So I made an accounting of what we spent during the year. The starting balance of that year was $146,926. The ending balance was $52,568. The 24-25 budget assumed a grant of $195,000 and budgeted that in the budget. There's some question now whether NSSA will actually get that grant.
We still have to budget for it, whether
we have budget for it.
whether we hope to get it, but we shall see.
Well, the rumor is it won't go to NSSA, it'll go to the organization that's going to run your plan. As the quote for that. That's
rumors abound everywhere.
they do, but right now we don't have it, and there's no plan to get it to us for any time in the future. So what we have right now is a residual of $52,568 going forward, and so we will budget that as expeditiously and use it as crude as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Extend it out. The concern I have when they did the 80,000, they approved it like in August, and it was the following May or June before we could actually spend it because of the processes that was involved. So if we do, it's potential that even if they approved that budget, that we would run out of resources before we ever got a chance to use it. So that's a remote possibility when it's there and something even we might think about.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Ron on his treasury report? If there's nothing, then we'll move forward with our staff report.
Staff was busy with treasurer preparing your budget, of course, supporting this board in your budget making efforts. The budget was filed with the Department of Revenue, so your 23-24 and your 24-25 obligations are satisfied with respect to those. I think the only other item that I want to speak to before I take questions on the staff report is that Cable Houston did contact me, let me know that Tommy's hourly rate is going to be increasing by $5 an hour. He asked me if he needed to send him a memo. And I took a calculated guess and suggested that I probably could just let you know that, rather than have him give you a specific memo that his hourly rate was going up $5. All other attorneys that have been working with you from Cable Houston, their rates are staying the same. I also advised him that the 195 is pending. not sure if it's going to come or not, we're not sure, and that, Mill City, and the county are still in the process of talking about the construction delivery agreement, so he is on hold right now, so he won't, any work, of course, that he and the team did in May and June, if those invoices that haven't come in already, they would be coming in, but you wouldn't see probably any invoices for the back half of June, just because there's not much for them to do right now, while we make the deals that can get made. Questions about the staff report? Okay.
I don't think anybody has any. Nothing further on staff report, then we'll go over, we have a county update with, Chris Einbaum.
Oh, maybe the two chill, nice, yeah.
All right, good evening. Chris Imo, Marion County, and brought Peter Olson with Keller Associates, who you all know. I asked Peter to come up and give our report today because there's been a lot of movement on the project design side. So Peter, you want to take it away?
I will. So I have no notes because there's a lot.
Right?
And yeah, I want to make sure I cover the right thing. So start talking about and summarize and let me know if you have questions, but start with the treatment plant site here in Mill City. We're waiting on the infiltration basin pilot test at the site. It's pending, getting site access opened up again. While that is waiting, we do have our hydrogeologist working on additional modeling that we are coordinating with the DEQ, or that the DEQ has requested. So they are moving ahead with that, but they will need the infiltration pilot testing results in order to finalize and check it. They've done samples from the San Am River for a number of different things, but one key is the PFAS. And we are waiting on results from the laboratory results for those tests right now. So a lot of investigation and digging into that is still happening. They did testing on the spring water samples that come out of the banks, or the southern banks of the San Am River there, testing for all the what we would test out for wastewater effluent. So a lot of total suspended solids, nitrates, pH, so on and so forth. It's all things that we're concerned about, getting into the groundwater from the effluent. And we are waiting to get results from that, all that as well. Preparing a scope of work for a future tracer test, and this lets us to hone in the modeling for the groundwater. And so it's not something that we're necessarily doing specifically, but we wanted to know what would it take in order to do that tracer test. So we're working on putting that together as well. Topographic survey is done for that site. The geotechnical investigation has been completed for that site, and we're using that in our design process right now. And then environmental due diligence, which means wetland survey, cultural resources investigation, and other phase one environmental site investigation. Those are ongoing currently. Property acquisition, the county is in negotiations and putting that, scheduling a meeting with the property owners. So conditional use permit that we have to get for that site, it's requiring an additional, some additional survey work for what they're calling expanded partition application. So supporting that process of partitioning the existing property, because it's one big property. We're gonna have to partition that out, so we need to do some additional work for that. As far as the design is concerned, preliminary engineering report is done. We're reviewing that internally. And it looks like we'll attach the 50% plans to that here later, I can say now in July. And be submitting that to the DEQ. They are evaluating bids for pre-procurement, which means, larger pieces of equipment, more important pieces of equipment that have long lead times or are more critical for us to design around, and make sure the design will work for it. That's the SPR basin, so the main treatment component of the plant, as well as the tertiary sand filter, so the kind of polishing end of that. And they had a meeting earlier this afternoon to talk about scoring and discuss those selections. So I don't have results. I'm sure you're just curious about which manufacturer specifically, but it's important. It's a big deal for the overall treatment plant. We are meeting with the DEQ this month in July to discuss the proposed effluent permit limits and their impact on the design. So this is really important for us as we're designing the plan is, you know, what are we gonna be held to? And we appreciate the DEQ's participation in that, understanding that it's a bit of a tough dance to do. Because they don't have all the answers they've been asking for either, because we're still doing some of the modeling and all those things. So, like I said, it's a bit of a dance. It's a very compressed schedule, and I think everyone's trying to do their best to make that work as good as we can. Design, 50% design is towards the end of this month. 90% design is still targeted for January and 100% in next spring. So that's the treatment components. As far as the force main and the Gates collection system, I mean, the force main is the pipe connecting, you know, Gates and Mill City. Topo survey for the force main has been completed. The survey for the Gates collection system is currently in progress. Looking to get done at the end of this month or early August. It's a lot of data to collect. The geotechnical investigation for the force main is scheduled towards the end of the very end of this month, first week of August. And then for the collection system, they've already started doing drilling. You probably have seen, if you're driving through Gates, you've seen them around. They are currently collecting information and will be through July. And there's two different phases. There's phase 1 and phase 2, and phase 2 is more deep, is for the pump stations where they need to get deeper. They're finding somewhat what we expected, that it's, you know, sandy and gravelly and boulders.
Big rocks.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised. We've done water lines and gates before, and this is what's there. So we're coordinating with our geotech sub and deciding how much effort to put in to drill through a boulder to find out what's underneath. So environmental due diligence for the force main is ongoing. Oh, sorry, fieldwork was completed. And they're working on their reports for all those. And then for the Gates collection system, it's scheduled to happen this month. And so again, it's a lot of data to collect, a lot of information that is pretty critical for the overall project. The design is a little bit after the treatment plant, as far as we'll have 30% for the force main in September, and then for the collection system in November, and then the other ones will fall in place after that. So there's I don't want to say delay because that's a negative connotation, but it's phased. So those are coming after the treatment plant and for good reason. And I should say good reason is the treatment plant is focus of getting the design done and put together. Detroit and Idana, monitoring and sealing wells at the McCoy site. So on the east side of Idana there, and the Detroit Ranger Station, those are scheduled to be decommissioned in September. That's part of our permitting process with the Forest Services to make sure those are decommissioned as well. Environmental due diligence, so looking at cultural resources and phase 1 environmental for the ODOT right away that we're looking at for the commercial septic systems. It has been completed, and they're drafting the reports right now, so we don't have the results or anything to speak to at this point yet. The septic.
May I interrupt?
Yes, sir.
Tell me more about the ODOT activity. This has been going on for a very long time. And we have projects that are critical in terms of depending on that access to the right of way for drain fields. And is there a way to get a closer estimation of when we'll have an answer to that?
Do you want me to take this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so couple new developments on that. So first of all, we've actually now started to work with those individual properties on what their design is. So that when we're granting easements, it's not just their frontage, it's actually, because we're so constrained, we're going to customize that to their needs. So that when we're granting those easements, it makes sense for what the purposes are and the size of the drain field they need. We're still limited, of course, by that overall footprint, but it lets us make that shift. The second development, there's been a kind of a changeover in the people we interact with at ODOT. Their right of way is no longer, the right of way agent's no longer there, has been reassigned. And we had a good meeting with ODOT's the surplus property office, and I don't want to say the other position wrong, but this particular region's right away. I don't deal in highway projects, so I don't know all of ODOT's regions, but I think we're region 2. Anyway, thank you. Come here, so that region's right away contact was in on that meeting as well. So we're getting that package together. We still have, I think, do we have all of the federal clearance requirements for that now? Cultural, environmental.
That's part of that phase 1 and getting all that approved.
Yeah. So we're just about ready then to submit that package to them so that they can start review. At this point, it's just because since they've adopted the rules for federal land acquisition, it's a very big package to submit, and we've been putting that together. So once it's ready, we'll get that in, then we'll get the yes or no, once that's in.
Okay, well, we have the one property, you know, the old restaurant property
Yep.
along the highway, and that that property sale is contingent upon having a permit.
Mhm.
Any ideas of when that might occur?
So that property was the subject of our meeting with ODOT, so that they were engaged in that as well. I
And
don't,
so they're gonna give easements to specific property owners
Mhm.
down the highway, if it all works out.
yes, that's the way that the ownership would go, so that it's not held by the city, gets held by the individual property owner.
Okay, so back to my original question. What can we expect in terms of knowing whether or not that's gonna work for that particular property? Because that project is basically sitting on the fulcrum right now, go or no go, and they're ready to move.
Yeah. One of the difficult things is just the total amount of land available. So our septic consultant's working with them on that. Even with that full length of that frontage, it is challenging because the septic rules require, especially in those soils, require such large areas. We won't know the exact footprint until we do the soils analysis, and we have to go through this phase of permitting before we can do that. So,
So what's
that's,
your best guess of when you're gonna be done with all that, and we'll have an answer?
my best guess for an answer would be October, but it's,
So nothing's gonna happen.
well, not until we have a definitive answer. We may be able to get staff to staff conversations that will give us some sort of idea, but of course, you know, those are all contingent upon the official decision.
And I'm sorry to put it, but
No, it's,
I thought we would have that decided by now, and so did the potential purchaser.
no, that's, my conservative guess would be we would get an official answer by October. It may be one of those things where we could have a pre-development meeting with them involved sooner, where they could, you know, give us an answer to the property owner.
Maybe this isn't a conversation for this forum, but let's just say the answer is no.
Mhm.
Then what happens in terms of that property? What kind of a footprint would be available for the land that they own in that area?
So I think that ties into the larger question of, you know, the Detroit is obviously very constrained without a sewer system. And this, I think this body is more aware of it than anyone else. And so particularly with the prescriptive rules regarding septic systems and the limited land availability, that becomes yet another challenge, without that extra land. It just takes away some of the square footage, but either way, it's going to be quite a challenge. So part of what, and not to skip in your agenda, Peter, but part of what we're doing is working through routes to make a sewer system permissible and to clear a regulatory pathway, not just for the lower basin, but also for Detroit and Indiana, because it's so critical. So this is actually part of our ongoing discussion about why we need to make regulatory updates to make a sewer system permissible up there. I don't have any other silver bullet for Detroit besides a sewer system.
So what happens to the grant money if we can't get this done by the end of the year, get an answer? Does the grant money for eval and design and construction go away with
No.
this problem?
No, that was some relief that came out of the Treasury's updates, is that obligation is no longer. Let's just say the obligation has already been met when it was passed to the state, so they're no longer holding subrecipients to that. And in fact, it's already been locked in, so there's no loss of funds. There's really nothing holding that to December now. We still want to get it moving as fast as possible.
Okay.
But there won't be any kind of loss if they don't get it decided and permitted by December.
Thanks for the interruption.
Oh, it's a good
Yeah.
question. So. I gotta remember where I'm at here. I was talking with the septic designer, so our septic designer is great, is continuing his working on, finding the solutions for those, even though we don't know that answer for sure. He's moving forward with coming up with a solution, to provide a septic system there. And then we are working towards the 100% design, for Kane's Marina, and we're looking next month is to have that done, so that the idea, the concept was to, get past Labor Day and have them out there, working on it and installing. So that's gonna take some effort. It's gonna take some, the cost estimation and checks and balances that we have to have there, but that's the target we're working towards.
And so, if I could add one more point on the commercial septic, we've had our first grant agreement go out, and we have a couple more in the works, so. Now we've had 2 systems have cleared final permitting. And we've got several more with applications in, so you'll start to see more of those grant agreements go out where the owner has that agreement in place that says they will be compensated for the full cost of their installation. We're glad to reach that next milestone.
Thank you.
And Peter, if I could just,
You wanna add?
yes, if I could just, I'm gonna, one quick hurrah for the consulting team on this point. Peter, you talked about the sampling you're doing. You're looking at contaminants we don't normally look at in wastewater, things like PFAS. So I was just at the American Water Works Association's conference. So it's all the water providers in the country. This is their big national conference. So we can see what everybody's doing kind of around the country. And they work very closely between water providers and the wastewater systems that, discharge to the same water supplies. And what Keller's doing is very proactive. We're sampling for components that are now of concern to water providers, but they are not typically regulated in wastewater. But we're gathering that data anyway, just for the sake of being proactive, for the importance of creating a pathway for permitting on this. So quick hurrah to you guys for that. It's actually very difficult, complex testing that their team is doing. So just wanted to mention that. So
Very nice.
this is a data, but any questions?
Yeah. It seems like I heard last time I was here that, you said the program for reimbursing people who had to do stuff to their septic after the fire is still in place.
Mhm.
Does that cover, commercial as well as? So last time you said mentioned it was commercial as well. I don't know if it wasn't, that's why I didn't.
Well, there are multiple programs, and so the fire damage, everything that's related to fire damage is a residential program. We have a separate system in Detroit, which is a commercial septic system, and that's,
Okay, so in Gates, in fact, there is no program to compensate commercial.
correct. The commercial program is meant to bridge the gap until a sewer system can be funded.
Right.
Which is separate from the, program to reimburse for homeowners whose homes were damaged by the fire.
But that's only for Detroit, not for Gates.
Yes, Detroit, and there are, two properties of exception, one's in Detroit, one's in Gates, one's in Again, for the commercial systems. So there's an amendment that allows for that program to be used for the Adana Fire District and for Camp Benedict.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Gotcha, okay.
Mhm.
This, my God, is on that.
It helps us bridge the gap where there's some ones that are technically zoned commercial, but
Well, I
also
got the
being.
old motel site up there and I didn't do anything because I was told there's no, like, there would be no reimbursement for commercial.
But it will be a free sewer system, so. That will be, all commercial properties will be able to hook up to the sewer system in Gates.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is the septic, to get our septic going right now, I can't do anything with the property right now unless I go through the process of rehabilitating the septic. You know, if I don't, you know, if I'm not gonna be reimbursed for that, the cost of doing that is prohibited as far as now going towards the septic, so. If in fact mine doesn't apply, that's fine, I'll wait for the septic, but if it did apply, I could do something there right now. So.
Yeah, no, the intent is just retroactive for those homes that were repairing and then turning around having to remove the new
Yeah,
septic.
no, that's fine.
Quick question for you, Peter, I guess, so. Everything goes on task and schedule stuff, is the collection system in Gates? Gonna be ready about the same time as the treatment plant, or is it gonna be coming online just a little bit later,
It
hopefully?
would definitely be after,
Okay.
because we have to have the treatment plant. The timing, I don't have that in front of me, but there is a little bit of a delay there to get the treatment plant running, to get it operating, to get it honed in, and then open it up for additional flow.
I don't wanna hold you to any timeline, but are we talking 6 months, a year?
I'd say 6 months to a year is
Okay,
sounds about right.
so I feel pretty quick.
A few months ago, we presented this body, we showed a kind of overall permitting schedule, but that took into account some expected pieces of construction, all subject to change. But we included in our contract 6 months of commissioning the new treatment facility. That would still be the plan. So during that commissioning process is when the collection system would be still tied in.
Brought online.
For Gates as well.
Yes,
So
the idea,
it should be tied in by January 2027, then basically.
that's
It's the goal.
actually if it's fully funded under ARPA, it needs to be done and paid by that time.
Okay,
It's
that's
an
still-
aggressive schedule, yeah. So this is a very complex project compared to a more typical delivery. That's why you're seeing a lot of different dates, because we are having to interweave these design and construction items to make it work in the timeframe we have.
Anything else you'd like to add, or I'm gonna open it up for questions then, obviously, anybody have any further questions?
Just one brief, will that plant run on the Mill Cities agreement alone without Gates?
Yes,
It will.
it will.
That's only. I was kind of giving the idea that it wasn't, that didn't sound right.
It will. It takes more, you have to feed it the nutrients a little bit more because of the step systems, but it'll like Gates flow as well. So it's good to have additional flows.
I just wanted to share that the City of Gates newsletter went out this month with information on that reimbursement grant. And then asked Tracy to print flyers to have in Gates City Hall available for anybody that's interested. Cool.
Very
I
nice.
appreciate that. If there are still any folks out there who have not submitted an application, we encourage it.
I feel like ever so often we hear something about it, people that come into the council and so we're like, what's that information again? You know, trying to look through paperwork and find it. So this way, at least it's
People
been
come and say, I
public.
just spent $30,000.
Yeah.
and you're gonna make me do a sewer, and I said, well, you can get reimbursed for that.
Yeah,
Really?
we would just made it available to everybody.
That, I'm sure helps a lot up there.
Yeah.
Just as a thought, in a project team meeting a couple times now, and I think we're serious about it, we're going to print lawn signs.
I read about that.
Yeah, okay, did you tell them that? Okay,
I have not.
all right.
No, you put it in your
Oh,
report.
yeah, okay, you put it, yes, and I want to be careful about who the "we" is here, so it's not NSSA that's printing lawn signs. It's the septic, program administrators. So it's the council of governments and it's the county, and so that we can try to get those out or offer those to people, so that when they're driving by, you know, both in Detroit and in Gates and, any other eligible area, they will, hopefully people will put a lawn sign out that says, you know, our septic tank was provided by this program, just like you'll see, roofers or painters or whatnot.
Oh,
So that
gotcha.
we
Okay.
can encourage people. It's funny, things, we can mail things, you know, you can
Yeah.
mail things, to people that until there's paint on the ground or a lawn sign in front, they may not.
You gotta have multiple avenues for raising awareness, because not one works on its own, so you gotta have multiple.
Yeah, what we find is mailing out even to like the people that pay the water bill, that might not be the people that live in the property or, you know, those kinds of things.
Mhm.
So having local information is really great.
So whose cell phone number should we give?
Just volunteer.
They can call the county or the council.
So does anybody out in the Zoom world have any questions for Chris or Peter? I don't see any hands raised, so. With that, I guess, thank you very much. Unless there's something else you want to add to it, I certainly appreciate you coming up here tonight, Peter, and you as well, Chris, obviously.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Item H is the Mill City Construction Delivery Agreement update for me, but there's really nothing to update. Mill City has talked with Marion County about a number of the things that we would like to see in the construction delivery agreement. We're still, I want to say, in negotiations with those kind of things. Right now, our focus is on the property procurement that we want to put the plant on. So that's where the major focus is right now. And that's moving forward with a proposed meeting coming up soon between Marion County, the property owner, and Mill City. So looking forward to that, and hopefully we have some good news by our next meeting on that one as well. Okay, our next item I is agency updates. DEQ, do you have anything for us? I see Mary's here somewhere. Mary, you got any kind of updates from DEQ for us?
No, I think Chris did describe, you know, that we are, or I guess Peter, that we are meeting at the end of near the end of the month to talk about limits for the potential wastewater treatment plant. Again, those are all preliminaries because, as he said, you know, we need to see the groundwater report and see the analytical, but, you know, they will be conservative at this stage, but hopefully with information as it rolls in, you know, they can elevate it if that's what the data supports. And then to Danny request about Detroit and that one piece of property, you know, we are working with the sanitarian with Marion County. It is a very tricky property, as Chris had mentioned. I mean, there's just not a lot of space, and the system that was put in there before can't be permitted. So they're going to have to basically, you know, keep that. If they can't, it's going to be kicked up to us, and which is fine. But so anyway, I just want to support Chris and Marion County that are really working hard to find solutions. But some of it, you know, is very tricky because of what's recommended, and if it kicks into new rules, then that makes it more challenging to figure out what to provide. But everybody's doing their best to respond quickly to questions and giving feedback as needed. So I just wanted to put a plug in for Marion County and their sanitarian, who is working really hard to try to make things work. So
Thank you, Marion. Yes, I agree. Everybody is working hard to make this work and go forward. So I appreciate that. I see also we have a regional solutions coordinator, looks like Beth Latowski, you're out there. You got anything you'd like to add, Beth? Maybe not. If not, I see also Business Oregon. Is there anybody from Business Oregon that has anything that they'd like to put for the board here?
I don't think Arthur is here today. I don't see him,
I didn't see his name
There.
up there.
yeah, I don't think, they're there. Yep, sorry,
Okay.
I don't have an update. Arthur didn't share an update with me, sorry.
Quite all right. I just wanted to make sure everybody had the opportunity to put in their 2 cents worth if they had something that they'd like to bring to the board. If not, it looks like, then I think that's about all we have on tonight's agenda.
Beth made a comment and said she's good, thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Okay. With that then, unless somebody has something that they would like to add to tonight's meeting, we're gonna go with meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming, being with us.
Thank you. Wow, that's never.